Shabbat Shalom. Yahweh's peace be with everyone. Please be seated. All right, if we could put up the title slide, we'll just get right to it, okay? All right, take that down. Time of the resurrection. Here we are, right? It's that time. Can I have the next slide? Actually, time of the resurrection. This is Great Signs Part 2. Okay, so you remember I left off last time with, and then will, this is Medikill 24, 30, and 31, and then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then will all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his Malachim with a great sound of a trumpet. We learned who that was, Yisrael Hawkins. And they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the earth to the other. And we saw the number 3220, which drop the 0, you get pastor's tag, but it means sea, roar, western. Sea, roar, western. Remember that word roar. Let's go to the next slide. Now, the other scripture that goes along with that is Luke 21:11, where it says, great earthquakes will be throughout place to place, with famines and pestilences, which we're seeing now, and there will be fearful sights and great signs from heaven. Fearful sights. Remember what we learned about not being fearful, okay? There's nothing to fear when you're doing Yahweh's will in Yahweh's house. Notice it's also 32:20, and it means sea, roar, western, okay? Now, let's talk about, go to the next slide, because I want you to know that you're in the right place. Yahweh is our refuge and strength, okay? The strength of Yahweh is Yahweh's laws, and this is the protected place right here. You remember this sanctuary was built in 1991, right? Right here? Can you look at, I show you a secret, 1991. Secret of Yahweh, or secret place of Yahweh. Can you flip that? Okay? Now you remember that number 996 we've been going over, right? That number is all about converting, rolling away, changing, turning over, turning back, okay, making upright, and moving. Psalm 46:2 and 3 tells us, therefore we will not fear in the changing of the earth and in the moving of mountains into the seas. May its waters roar and foam, may mountains tremble in its swelling. Selah. Ponder that. And yes, I said the word may because there's also something coming right now for the month of, they call May. It's a great sign in heaven. You'll be hearing about it later. I'm not going to talk about it today. Okay, well, if you did flip it, guess what you'll get? You'll get 996 again. You see that? You're going to get the 996 again. Okay, if you were to flip that bottom one. Now let's talk about this changing that's coming. Can I go to the next scripture? Okay, so we're talking about the dead will be raised. Okay, the dead will be raised. Okay? 996. 1 Corinthians 15:52 says, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised incorruptible, and we will be changed. We who are alive and remain will be changed. Also, Eob told you in chapter 14, he says he's going to wait till his change comes. Remember that? The resurrection? All right, that word 1552, 1 Corinthians 15:52 has to do with, it's the word Galilee. Now, there's a reason for that, because you Galileans are going to bring this about. Okay, now watch this. It says 1552 means Galilee, a circuit, territory, region. From 1550, a turning, folding, revolving, ring. From 1556, to roll away, to take away, to trust. Now you see that tombstone there that's rolled away, right? Because that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be opening, Yahweh is going to be opening these tombs, these graves. And the people are going to come out. Okay, the dead are going to, in Messiah, will be raised first. Remember this. We go to the next slide. Now, this Yahmatria is off the GMK 1074 sign, the great sign in heaven. One of the great signs, 1074. The first number you get is 322, and it means back again. from 2068 or 268 after time to come, the west. So that's talking about this last work. 322 in the Greek means to show forth, to show clearly, to exhibit. That word number 1932 in the middle is from 1931, and it means he himself, far. 2127 is the third number. Now get this, it means agitation from 2111, tremble, quake, to shake off, to agitate, as with fear, to move, tremble, and vex. Well, that word 2111 is actually Luke 2111 or 2111 that talks about great earthquakes will be throughout place to place with famines and pestilences, disease epidemics, and there will be fearful sights and great signs from heaven. Can I have my next slide? When you add up all those numbers that we just went over, 322, 1932, and 2127, you get 4381, and it means accord or unity, end, near, moving toward a goal or destination from 4383, and it means appearance, a coming, outwardly, a presence, a sight. And it's from 3700, and it means to appear, to look at, behold, look, see, allow oneself to appear, to gaze with wide open eyes is something remarkable. And you remember 3,700 years after Genesis 49 was written, pastors saw this first sign from heaven. Remember the donkey in the sky, okay? 1689, I believe, is when Genesis 49 was written, and 2011 years later was 3,700 years. Okay, next slide. We put in all of those meanings right there, okay, that I just gave you, and you get the first number is 6983 or 23, and it means to come to meet, to come before, to project oneself, okay? Now remember, Yahshua is not going to come here, okay? But he's going to make his presence known, okay? And he's going to make his appearance, okay, as Pastor told us, a little at a time. Remember, he said we would freak out if we saw Yahshua right now. We're not ready, okay? But he's making his appearance, but he's not coming here physically, but he's making his appearance known. Now watch. The first number, 6923, come to meet, come before, to project oneself. Second number, 4153, means appointed place of Yahweh, appointed time of Yahweh. Well, what's the appointed place of Yahweh? It's right here, okay? And 4153 in the Greek means spiritually, in a spiritual way, figuratively, from 4152, spiritual regenerate. You know, the time of the regeneration, okay, the resurrection, the restoring of the earth, this converting of the earth, this changing that's going to take place. Okay, that third number, next slide, 444344. If you'll notice, that's a palindrome. You can read it the same forward and backward, there's a reason. It's pointing to Yachanan 443, okay? It's the number 443 forward and backwards, where it reads, now after 2 days, speaking of Yahshua, he left there and he went on into Galilee. Remember what Galilee means, circuit, to revolve, to turn back, etc., right? Roll away, ring. Now, this is from the 6th book of Israel, chapter 21, verse 108. Pastor says, but after I'm raised up, I'll go before you into Galilee. He was making a prophecy here because he knew the prophecy already that actually prophesied this would take place and the work would actually go back to Galilee. Now, when you put the last part of that quote in the Yahmatria, where it says he was making a prophecy here because he knew the prophecy already that actually prophesied this would take place and the work would actually go back to Galilee. Remember where Abilene was, okay? Notice you get 1074. Okay, drop that 8 off the end. Now look at the next slide. It says, this is Yachanan 4:45. It says, when he came into Galilee, the Galileans welcomed him, having seen all the things that he did at Jerusalem during the great feast of unleavened bread. For they also went to the feast, speaking of the Galileans and how they accepted Yahshua. And remember all the work that he did in that time period in that area. Now, that number 9066, you get 906, and it means white linen, a linen garment. It's used in Yeketskia 9:2. From 909 to be separate, isolated, lonely shoots. Remember, you remember about the shoots from Yahshua, the roots? Yahshua was of Yishai, Isaiah 11. He said, I am the root. He says, I'm the vine, you're the branches. You remember all that? We brought all this before. We'll have to go back in depth on it at some point. But Yahshua's shoot, we are the shoots of Yahshua. We're the roots of the donkeys. Remember, we're the colt of the donkey. Okay? We're that last work, the seventh work. The donkeys were the fifth work. We're the colts. Okay, so Yahshua's shoot, 1074. Now let's look at the next slide, because Yeketska 9:2 gives us another clue. Yeketska 9:2 says, the man clothed in linen with the writer's inkhorn at his side. Okay, when you put that in your matria, you get 3484 is Yeshurun, the upright one, or upright one, it says. From 3474 to be smooth, straight, or right, fixed straight. Remember? And you're going to see why he's called Yeshurun, because he's going to be the one to straighten this mess out, to make it, to turn it back the way it should have been. Okay, now, and I'll show you how it ties into resurrection. Remember Isaiah 44:2, do not be afraid, Jacob, my servant, and Yeshurun, beloved Yisrael, whom I have appointed. Okay, that shows you who Yeshurun is. So let's go to the next slide. Now, when you take Yachanan 4:45, and about him coming into Galilee and how he was welcomed, can you flip that for me, please? Okay, you see who that's talking about, right? This man who on 9:906 lifted his hands to heaven, the upright one. Yeshurun, the upright one. Remember, flip it. Flip it, make it right. Flip it back, change it. Okay, overturn it. Convert. That's what this 996 is talking about today. It's about conversion of the earth, the changing, the moving of the mountains into the sea. We'll get to that too, because Zerubbabel is the one. Remember, he says, who are you, O great mountain? Before Zerubbabel, you're going to be made into a plain. Okay? And this mountain is going to loom up. Okay? As you're going to see, it's taking place right now. Okay? All right. Can I have the next slide? This upright one. Put in upright one, you get 559. That's page 559 of the book of Yahweh, where it tells you in Isaiah 45:1, this is what Yahweh says to his anointed for uprightness, who I have taken by his right hand to subdue nations. He's talking about Yeshurun, the upright one. Anointed for uprightness, 1074. Make smooth, straight, and right, 322. That's pastor's tag. Both of those show pastor's tag numbers assigned in these last days. One in the state of Arkansas, one in the state of Texas, 1074. Can I have my next slide? Now, 3484 in the Greek, okay? 3484 in the Greek, remember this is from the man clothed in linen with the writer's inkhorn at his side. 3484 means Nain, or in Hebrew I believe it's pronounced Nahan, but it's a village of Galilee, a village of Galilee. Now notice, when you put in Nain, a village of Galilee, 1074, okay, well, in that village, Yahshua raised a widow's son from the dead, okay? Put in widow's son, Nain, 1074, okay? This is found in Luke 7:15, 1074. Well, let's see more. Can I have my next slide? In Luke 7:14, it says, Yahshua, he went up and touched the bier, and as they who carried him stood still, and he said, young man, to you I say, wake up. And he who was dead sat up and began to speak. Now, keep that word sat up in your mind, okay? Let's look at that first number, 1380. 1380 means a chain of hills, a mountain, an area, territory. The second number, Greek 1380, means to show, to point out, to teach, to make known, to demonstrate, to bring. Remember, Abel talks about bringing. That's where the teaching takes place. 8280, drop the zero, that's pastor's birthday. But it's also, remember the word Yisrael? It comes from 8280. 3478 comes from 8280. And it means to have power, to prevail, to overcome. And that third number, 1056, in the Hebrew means a valley. From 1058, mourn. And remember, mourn is Abel. Abel means mourning. Valley This is the peaceful valley right here. We proved that before. The peaceful valley, 1074. 179 is Abel, and 1559 is the word, comes from 1556, to roll, roll away, take away, remove, together, trust. That third number, 1056, in the Greek means Galilee. Isn't this amazing? How Galilee keeps coming up? From 1551, a rod. And remember the rod that's going to be given, the righteous scepter, ring, district, from 1550, a turning, from 1556 to roll, roll away, take away, remove, together, trust. Okay, let's go to the next slide. When you put in all those numbers, you add those 1380, 8280, and 1056, or 10560, look what number comes up. 2022, isn't that where we're sitting right now? The mountain, the promotion, the hills of Galilee, the mountain of the house of Yahweh. And Strong's Greek 2022 means to pour upon, to pour in, from 1909, get this, above, connection, remember making the connection with Yahweh, we're going to make that connection and raise the dead together at this time, okay? Let's go to the next slide. That third number, let's see, hold on. Okay, when you put in all those meanings I just gave you, you get the number 41415. So to be 4141, we look up, and it means encompassing, surrounding, a circuit, to turn about, to go around, surround, circled, circled around, to revolve, circling, circuit, change, changed, returned, turned, over, bring back, drive, think of Luke 20, bring again. Now, remember that number 5437. You see it in red? Keep it in your mind. Now go to the next one. Remember Texas State Highway? I brought this out on 2/25, 2017. Go look for yourself. When you put in Texas Highway, Texas State Highway, loop 322, you get 5439. 5439 is from 5437. Look, you see that number? To turn about, to go around, surround, circle, to revolve. Remember, it's a loop. But it's talking about Genesis 3:22. We're going to loop around and we're going to bring them back. Remember, salvation's offered in these last days. The tree of life was shut off in Genesis 3:22. But we're bringing it back. We're turning it around. Okay? Next slide. Who's the modern day Galileans? 1074. Okay, now look at that number 807 in Jewish. That's showing you page 807 of the book of Yahweh in Luke 20, verse 37, where it says, now the dead are raised, even as Moshe showed at the burning bush, at the house of Yahweh, remember? When he called Yahweh the father of Abraham and the father of Isaac and the father of Jacob. For he's not a father of the dead, but of the living. Put that in your matria, 1074, right? Whose tag number is that? Okay, next slide. Today's 321, right? On the Roman calendar. When you put in Luke 20:37, you get 321, which means afterward, following, west. 321 in the Greek means to bring up, bring out, bring forth, bring up again, loose. Okay? Binding and loosing. Remember that too. We're going to bring them up out of the graves. We're going to loose them from sin. Okay? And the second number, 3317, it's the mighty one will open. The mighty one will open. And notice, Brown Driver and Briggs gives a little bit more on that number 3317. And it says at the bottom, upper part of Abilene? You see that word? You see that? Next slide. 1 Corinthians 15:51 says, behold, I show you a secret truth. Notice 1551 means Galilee. Okay? Now, 339 means to set up, to sit up. It's only used twice in your whole book of Yahweh about raising the dead. Remember Yeshurun, the upright one? Second number, 2034, means seven or seventh. That's the seventh messenger. 2568 is the third number, and it means five or fifth. That's Yeshua. Notice, 339 is pointing to Luke 7:15, where it says that young man sat up when Yahshua told them to wake up. Last slide. Now, who's going to do it this time? 1 Thessalonians 4:16 says, "For Yahshua himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the Malach Gadol, and with the trumpet of Yahweh, and the dead in Messiah will be raised first." Now notice the side note, 1 Thessalonians 4:16a, if you put that in your Yahmatria, you get 322, pastor's tag. So let's look at footnote A. It says that word shout means orders or command, that by which orders are given to me. Notice, put that in your Yahmatria. Whose number is that? 3478 Yisrael. He's the one, okay? And with all of us, right? Who's the trump of Yahweh? 1074. That's right. Okay, and now if you'd all please stand, it's been a great pleasure. You're in the right place. Keep trusting in Yahweh. And soon you'll be given this power to raise the dead, and we'll all go forth in great power and glory, and it'll be a wonderful day. And if at this time, I'd like to turn it over to the great priest, the great Kohan, Yehuda Hawkins.